Hi, good afternoon, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I want to thank the chairwoman for her leadership on this, Member Lucas as well, and the witnesses here. Really appreciate everything you've done for our nation's security. It actually is an impressive feat to have gotten where we are with so many vendors so quickly. I'd like to start with just a quick nuanced comment here before I ask my question. I think to Dr. Butenheim, your comments earlier, and I mean this in a very constructive manner, so please don't take this critically, but I think it's important when we're in an effort to try to get everyone to get vaccinated to the max extent possible, that we don't necessarily push to ask people to not ask questions. I think this is different than a normal flu vaccination. It's got much more publicity. The average American is much more aware. They're much more informed about what's going on. So I think when we say we need to try to remove cognitive load from people's decision-making process or discourage them from having choices, I understand what you're saying, but we have to be eyes wide open that when we use language like that, some demographics will actually become either more paranoid about the vaccine or less trustful of the government. We talked about the Hispanic community with the use of warp speed, trusting the process less because of just the language. So I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree with everything at an academic and science level. I think we rather than discouraging people from asking questions, we should make the answers to those questions more readily available. And in the end state, I completely agree with you. They're all great products, and you're going to be saving your life with any of these vaccinations. Just a nuance, but I think it's important, especially in public forums, which these all are, right? So my question is to Mr. Reed, I think, and we can follow up with Dr. Newswell. In California here, we're close to the bottom, 5 states in terms of distribution and the supply chain failures. Getting not only dosages here, but distributed. What are the single or the I guess the 3 or 4 biggest barriers to getting the vaccine to a more widely distributed network at the CVS, the Walgreens, the Walmarts, wherever you would have normally gotten your flu shot or your birth control or your prescriptions refilled? Besides the cold storage, because if we get through that, or if there's a vaccine that is sort of amenable to wider distribution, what are the follow-on barriers, I guess, to ensuring that wider distribution?
So for us, we did not initially engage a lot of those, the pharmacies and some of the smaller providers around the state that could have direct access to Oklahomans. We did that because in the initial stages, when we had limited vaccine, we were trying to move towards mass vaccination to get the vaccine out there much quicker and start to try to have an impact on interrupting the transmission of COVID. We did initially, within the first probably 3 to 4 weeks, start to send some vaccine to some federally qualified healthcare centers and some other smaller outlets, if you will, other than mass vaccination. And the challenge for them is systems in which they can run through that vaccine rapidly. So we started seeing obstacles of diluting the vaccine inventory in any one area. And in doing so, vaccine would start to sit on a shelf. So I think it's important for us to engage all these outlets. Our pharmacy partners, we're pleased with the federal pharmacy retail program that's coming on board. Right now we have 76 pharmacies in Oklahoma that are participating in that, but it's smaller doses, 100 doses here, maybe 200 there. And I think it's important for us that we give them inventory and ensure they have inventory that they can run through in a week's time, because they don't have the resources to set up large volume mass vaccination. So we want to equip them with the vaccine inventory that they can run through within a week or so that we can ensure that vaccine is continually moving from freezers into arms in a rapid manner. Now, when vaccine inventory comes up, we have more vaccine. I think we're in a much better shape to push out more vaccine to those individuals so that we do have that access to that trusted source at the local level.
This is Phil Wong. If I could add one thing to that, just, because initially that was what our plan in Texas was. Like, we have over 800 local providers signed up to be part of that distribution. And, then the state published a map with all these, and some of the pharmacies that had it. And then they were getting overrun with calls, but they only had about 100 or so doses to last a week. And that's where there was a big pivot to moving to these hubs and the mass vaccination sites. But that was sort of, given the current situation, the limited availability. I think we're trying to get towards that. I think it sounds like the federal pharmacy program is to start to get that supply going and testing it out. And once there is much more availability, then that'll be a big part of certainly our efforts also.
Great. Thank you guys. I have a bad connection here, so I apologize, but thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next member.